This is our fifth module in evidence-based practice in language disability evaluations. In this one, we're going to show you how to use the Teletherapy SLAM BOOM Cards that we've created. This is for the elicitation and analysis of language using SLAM materials via Telepractice. So how do you use these materials in Telepractice? Well, my lab manager, Sayume Romero, will describe how to access them and then how to use them.
Welcome to Leaders Project, and today we are introducing the SLAM BOOM Cards. We've taken the original SLAM cards, or School-Age Language Assessment Measures cards, and adapted them for the BOOM Learning Platform to provide SLAM BOOM Cards. This video will show you how to access the SLAM BOOM Cards on boomlearning.com and how to use them in Telepractice via Zoom. First, let's show you how to create a BOOM account and how to access the SLAM BOOM Cards. Once you go to wow.boomlearning.com, you will need to create a free account in order to access and use the SLAM BOOM Cards. You will see three options, and in your case, Teachers is the one you will select. Next, you will click the link to create a free trial account. Here you will have the option to join via email. They also have options for Google and Microsoft accounts as well. Today, we're going to use an email link to create a free account by entering our email address and a password, then clicking Create Account. Next, you will confirm that you want to create the account, and you have officially created a BOOM account. To find the SLAM BOOM Cards, go to the Store icon at the top of the screen and type in Leaders Project in the search box. Here you will see the SLAM BOOM card, and there's also a link to the Leaders Project BOOM storefront. Once you click on the cards, you can preview them, but they will only be able to show 4 sample cards. So, in order to access all of the cards, you want to click on the green Library button to add the entire set to your library for free. You'll be asked to confirm your selection, and the first time you select the library, you will be asked to accept their policy agreements. Once you're in your library, you will see that the cards are there and that you can click on them to access the full deck and use them in Telepractice. Next, we will show you how to use these cards in Telepractice via Zoom. When you're in Zoom, at the bottom of your screen, there is a green Share Screen button. A window will open and you click on the screen that you want to share. One of the reasons we adapted the SLAM cards for BOOM was that we wanted to incorporate the interactive feel of moving cards as if we were doing this activity in person. In Zoom, there is an option to give remote control to your client so that they can control your pointer and engage in the click and drag features available on BOOM. Unfortunately, this feature only works when clients are using a desktop or laptop computer and do not work if they are using a tablet or smartphone. To give your client remote control of your screen, move your pointer to the top of the screen to show the hovering menu and click on Remote Control. A drop-down will appear and you can select who you want to give control to. Then you're all set. In case that the remote control has become a distraction or you need to immediately stop remote control, you can use the keyboard shortcut Alt-Shift-G. Again, that's Alt-Shift-G. The next card uses the draggable feature from BOOM and allows the child to move the different pictures around so that they can get oriented to all the different pictures found in this SLAM card set. If the child cannot do remote control, you can move them around yourself and ask them questions like, what's happening in this picture? Or who do you see here? Next, we want the child to put these images in order. Again, if they have remote control, they should be able to use the draggable feature. If not, you can do that for them, and you can drag each image into the slot that's meant to be. This allows us to see the child's problem-solving skills, their story grammar, whether they're able to make inferences and make those connections in putting these in order. Once they've got a good idea of the order, we ask them the next prompt. And that is, tell me the story. And this is really where we elicit our language sample, want to hear those complex sentences. We have more prompts following that get into more theory of mind, problem solving, inferences that will hopefully elicit some nice complex sentences and language, and really show us more about the child's abilities. And did you know that SLAM and SLAM BOOM cards can be used for both assessment and treatment? These cards are a great way to elicit language samples during assessment, but can also be used in therapy to promote complex sentence building, working on story grammar, and social pragmatics. You can also find more SLAM materials at leadersproject.org, which we hope to be making into SLAM BOOM cards in the near future. Thank you so much for your time. And again, take a look at leadersproject.org for more free resources and courses and materials to help out.
So since Sayame Romero made that video for us, we do have all the SLAM BOOM cards in Boom Learning in the Leaders Project SLAM BOOM cards file account, and we even have one in Spanish. We are now focused on trying to get them all done in Spanish and several other languages to make it easier for people to use. Here we go. We're going to start with Dog Comes Home. Again, this is for children 4 years old to early elementary. This little girl is in first grade. She's about to turn 7 next week, and we did this last week. So when you're thinking she's just about 7, her name is Lexi. We've edited it, so we took off the beginning part where they put it in order just for time's sake. We do a lot of prompting of the putting it in order. That it's not a sequencing task, and as I said, many professionals, when I do this in PD activities, there's always a group or several groups that can't quite get the sequence together. That's not it. You can do a little dynamic assessment. Say, wait a second. They go, oh my gosh, of course. That's fun to see too. Okay, so here we have Lexi, who's going to tell us Dog Comes Home. I will tell you a little bit about Lexi's background. She is a twin brother. You're going to see her brother as well. Her parents are both Nuyorican, meaning both parents were born in Puerto Rico. Mother, one parent in Puerto Rico, one parent in New York. The parents speak Spanish fluently and often converse in Spanish with each other. Their goal is to have their children be bilingual, but once the kids started hanging out with English-speaking kids and there was so much going on with twins, they started to use all English, and then Spanish is the secret language. But I know they're going to be bringing their kids to summers in Puerto Rico where they'll learn this. So here we go. Dog Comes Home by Lexi.
Hi, Lexi. My name's Abigail. Today we're going to be looking at a story together. Does that sound like something you're ready to do?
Yeah.
All right. This is going to be a story about a dog and a little girl, so we're going to look at it together. Let's start with the first picture. Start by telling me what you see in that picture.
I see a black dog. They can see each other. The dog likes the little girl. The little girl thinks her mom won't let her have a dog.
And then what's happening in this picture?
She's hiding the dog in her backpack. She's coming home and her mom is very surprised because she's dirty. Her mom tells her to take a bath.
And then what's happening in this last picture?
She finally finds out that she has a dog and she gets really angry.
Very good. I'm going to ask you some questions now about what the story we just told. So what is the girl thinking here?
She's thinking that her mom will not let her have a dog.
And why is she putting the dog in her bag?
So her mom doesn't see.
Yeah, and why does she want her mom to see the dog?
So she doesn't get really angry.
Right. Why is the girl getting so dirty?
Because the dog is full of dirt.
Okay, and how is the dirt getting from the dog to the girl?
The dog is on her.
That's right. Why is she in the bathtub with a white dog?
Because the dog was just covered in dirt and now that he took a bath, he's all white.
Right. What is the mother going to do now?
Tell her to get rid of the dog.
And why do you think that?
Because she looks really angry.
What would you say to your mom if you were the girl right now?
Can I please keep the dog?
And what else would you say to her? Why would you want to keep the dog?
So I have a dog for the first time.
Very good. You did it. Great work, Lexi.
So that's our Lexi. We did use the guidelines for analysis, so you could write it, as I said, right in here as she's saying the things, or you could record it and write it at the same time, or just record it. It is, short. They're about 3 minutes for the whole thing. We do say often, typically, developing students need prompts to answer some questions, so don't be afraid to give prompts, but don't give the answers away. Sometimes people, especially clinicians who work with kids with special needs, the student doesn't quite get it, and then all of a sudden they break it down too much. You just want to give, what's the nudge they need? You could say, well, what about this? Does that make sense? That kind, rather than, well, what do you see here? What is that? What about this? Does that make sense? Develop your clinical judgment by doing this with at least 10 typically developing students of the same age who are evaluating. And I wanted to mention Gabrielle, who we saw in the last module, in Module 4. We did Dog Comes Home, and she never, with so much prompting, way more breaking down than we would normally do with a child, she could not make the inferences as to why the girl was in the bathtub with a white dog. Sometimes it takes a bit of time, but really she did not have the ability to make those inferences and problem solve, which was very interesting to see. She knows the entire story and does a synthesis of it. So beautiful. Little girl thinks her mom, nice referential cohesion, won't let her have a dog. She's hiding the dog in her backpack. So she has a deep understanding of the issues in the story. She's thinking her mom will not let her have a dog, and that's absolutely correct. That's what that thought bubble is telling us, and it's a nice noun clause. She's thinking that her mom will not let her have a dog. So here's your noun clause that her mom will have, and she's thinking is the independent clause. Okay. She understands the social pragmatic issues. Her mom's not going to let her. And why is she putting the dog in her bag? So she knows about this false beliefs, the trying to make something secret. She doesn't want her mom to get angry, so she has nice causal cohesion. These are dependent clauses. So the question, why is she putting the dog in her bag? She says the inferred independent clauses. She is putting the dog in her bag so that her mom doesn't see her. She is putting the dog in the bag so that she doesn't get angry. So here are nice, complex sentences. Think about yourselves. If I say, why did you come to this webinar? Because I had to get my CEUs, right? You don't say, I came to this webinar because I had to get CEUs. That's understood. You might say it, but it's not wrong to not say it. Okay. Why is she getting dirty? She has this nice adverbial clause. There's the independent clause that's understood. She's getting dirty because the dog is full of dirt. So nice adverbial clause showing causation. And how is she getting dirt? How is she getting the dirt getting on her? Because the dog is on her. Again, because the dog is on her. Nice adverbial clause. So we have beautiful inferencing, and she understands it and can describe it through expository language. She immediately understood that she's in the bathtub with a white dog, the adverbial clause, because the dog is just covered in dirt. And now that he took a bath, he's all white. So we have a nice temporal cohesion, just covered in dirt, and now that he took a bath. So we have nice temporal cohesion. We have a nice adverbial clause here. And then we also have an adverbial clause here for causation. So she's got beautiful language that she's shown to us. Now let's get into the theory of mind and perspective taking. What do you think the mom's going to do? Is mom's going to tell her to get rid of the dog because she looks really angry. So nice complex sentences. She can take different perspectives. She understands theory of mind and understands the emotional context of this situation. And then to try to get her mom to let her keep the dog. Can I please keep the dog? And, her argument, that's persuasive with the imploring tone. I'm being so adorable. And also, I could have a dog for the first time. Again, the temporal marker, first time, this poor kid. Of course, Lexi and her brother convinced their mom and their dad to give them a dog way before this. They know how to be persuasive, those two. So what we learned from Lexi's language sample analysis, that she can produce a variety of complex sentences, again in my evaluation, and I would give examples of the noun clauses, the temporal cohesion, the causal cohesion. She certainly could understand social language and pragmatics and theory of mind. I'd give a couple of examples of that. And she was able to make all of these inferences and be persuasive to get that mom to get her a dog. Her expository language is great. She has the structures to support it, typically developing. Now, the crayons is the newest SLAM materials. Kimberly Sundar was a former student of mine, and she saw this cartoon and she said, I think this would work. And so I worked on it since the summer to try to create this. And in about October, I felt that we had the right questions after working with a bunch of kids and a bunch of clinicians to try to really make it work, and changing the facial expressions, changing the colors. So you're going to see Kenneth, who actually is Lexi's twin brother, is going to tell us the story of the crayons. The way this works, the crayons in the subway, a single piece of paper like this is downloaded from a Leaders project, and on the back are the questions. For the cards, like Dog Comes Home, it's a cell phone, you get a bunch of cards and they put them in order, and then you get a single card that has the questions, and then you can put out the cards, and then you have the questions, of course, so it's so easy to translate because all you have to do is translate, 8 sentences. Okay, so now we're going to have Kenneth do the crayons.
The crayons?
Yes, the crayons. All right, let's check it out. What happened here?
Red drew something on the walls, and he did something mean, so blue got sad, and purple got angry at red.
All right, why is the red crayon pointing to the little blue crayon?
Because he thinks it's funny.
What's funny about it?
Well, he likes being mean, and it's funny that he's crying to him.
So if red crayon is pointing to blue crayon and trying to be mean, why is that mean to point at the blue crayon?
Because he is probably laughing at him. Like, that's another source of saying, ha ha, ha ha, ha ha.
If you look at the wall behind them and you see, who do you think maybe did that mess on the wall behind them?
Red. That's why I said in the last cat. That's why I said in the last question.
So Fred did that on the wall behind him, and now he's pointing at blue crayon.
Because he's sad, and now he's like, ha ha, ha ha.
Let's go back to the first picture. So we have the big purple crayon.
He's angry at him because he drew on the walls, and he's being very mean.
Mm-hmm. So if we look at this, and red is pointing at blue crayon, but looking at the big purple crayon, what do you think that the red crayon is trying to tell big purple crayon by pointing at the blue crayon?
That he did it.
Oh, that who did it?
The blue one did it. It's easy to recognize that he's blue and he's red, so he couldn't have done it because he's a blue crayon.
Oh my goodness, that takes us to my next question. What would you say to the big crayon if you were the little blue crayon?
I would say, he drew on the walls. He's lying.
So
I didn't do it.
how would you convince the big crayon that you didn't do it?
I would show him that it was red because I'm blue and I couldn't have been red.
Yeah, that makes sense. If you said that, what do you think then is going to happen next?
I think the purple crayon is going to do what I just said.
Which was what?
Which was, I said that he would go over and he would look at the red stuff.
Yeah, and then who do you think anybody would get in trouble? Who do you think purple crayon might?
He would definitely try to punish red crayon.
I would hope so, right? I think you're right. Okay, one last question, and this is kind of a more fun question. Were you ever blamed for something you didn't do?
No.
Never, ever? Do you have any friends or siblings who might have tried to get you in trouble and said, Kenneth did it.
Well, my sister once.
Oh, what happened?
We were both getting a new toy. When we got kinetic sand, it was for both of us. It was from Santa. Then we were fighting over it, and then Sophia accidentally pushed it down, and she spilled it. Then she blamed it on me so that I could get in trouble. Also, today it happened. So she spilled my Pokemon cards all over the place. And then when I called Dad in, she lied to Dad so that I could get in trouble.
Did you end up picking him up?
Well, she ended up picking them up because Dad knew she was lying. I convinced him that she was lying.
You did it. You were like the little blue crayon. Oh, and you did this too. You did it. You did it.
Yeah.
That was such a good story, Kenneth. Thank you.
So that was done by Kathleen White, first-year grad student in my lab. Again, here is the guidelines for analysis. He completely understands the story, just like his sister. The red drew something on the walls, and he did something mean, so blue got sad, and purple got angry at red. So he has complex sentences and compound sentences. He has the causal cohesion, so good referential cohesion. We know what he's talking about, and he has the whole story. I love when he gets into the taunting, and he really has a connection to the social emotional, and he also enjoys the acting part of life, the interaction part of life, and that taunting by peers and what that feels like. And he also has a nice complex sentence with because, why? Red is pointing to the little blue crayon is your understood independent clause because he thinks it's funny. That's your adverbial dependent causal clause. And he does a lot of intonation. He thinks it's funny. And what he's saying is not really funny. So he brings in a lot of social emotional things. What's funny about it? Well, he likes being mean, and it's funny that he's crying to him. And it is funny that he's crying to him. Like that's another dependent clause, which is so sophisticated in terms of the way he brings it in. Why is that mean to point to the blue crayon? Because he's probably laughing at him. Okay, so he's got beautiful understanding of false beliefs. He's got perspective taking, theory of mind, complex sentences. And what would you say? How would you convince? And it said that he did it. The blue one did it. It's easy to recognize that he's blue and he's red. So he could have done it because he's a blue crayon. So he couldn't have done it because he's a blue crayon. So he makes all the inferences. It's persuasive argument. He's got some nice complex sentences, relational and causal cohesion, conditional tense. He's got strong comprehension. Next, he makes some nice meaningful predictions. I think the purple crayon is going to do noun clause, what I just said, which was that I said that he would go over noun clause and he would look at the red stuff. He would definitely try to punish red crayon. So he's got it all in place. Down here is my analysis. And then, of course, his sister, by the way, when we did this with her, she had not a single story to blame. Kenneth, on the other hand, had all these stories about what his sister did. They're beautiful, beautiful stories. Again, nice complex sentences, nice marking of when. Then when I called Dad in, she lied to Dad so that I could get in trouble. And she's all, so he's, beautiful temporal, referential, and causal cohesion throughout this. What I put in my analysis section in my written report, I would probably put the first two together and give some examples of this, the relative clauses, the noun clauses, and the temporal clauses, the adverbial clauses. Causal cohesion, different perspectives. I would talk about a social pragmatic language and his ability to create those personal narratives and talk about being persuasive. He convinced his father that she was lying. Love it. Now we're going to look at Mario. So Mario comes from a home where only general American English is spoken. By the way, I should say that the parents of Lexi and Kenneth are both, the mom is an SLP and the father is an IT guy. They both have college degrees and the master's degree with this SLP. Mario comes from a home where only general American English is spoken. The mom is getting a degree. The father's a professional guy. So here we go, and let's see how Mario approaches the crayons.
So Mario, this one is a story about crayons. My first question to you is, what happened here?
Purple crayon made a blue crayon, and because he tried, but it was really red crayon.
Nice observation. Yes. So why is the little red crayon pointing to the little blue crayon?
Because he doesn't want a moment.
So what do you mean by a moment? What is a moment for you?
A timeout.
A timeout. Okay. What is, by pointing to the little blue crayon, what's he trying to say? Why is he doing that?
Because he doesn't want a timeout.
And why would he get a timeout? What did he do?
Because of drawing. Because of drawing on the walls.
Yes, exactly. That's right. Now, what would you say to the big purple crayon if you were the little blue crayon?
I didn't do it.
Yep, exactly. And how would you convince the big purple crayon that you didn't do it?
With saying it.
How would you convince him? What would you say?
I would say, I did not do it.
Yes. How could you let that big purple crayon know it was not me? And
I would say it was red crayon.
Yeah, why would you say it was red crayon?
Because I didn't draw them all.
You didn't draw on the walls. And what color's on the walls?
Red.
Yeah, there you go. Very nice, Mario. Okay.
But it could be something else. The blue crayon could have picked him up and then dropped him on the wall.
That's actually a good possibility. Wow, Mario. So now that we've gone through that, what do you think is going to happen next?
Put him like in timeout.
Who's going to put him in timeout?
Purple crayon.
Yeah, no, very good. And were you ever blamed for something you didn't do?
Well, one time I draw on the wall, but bugged me and Mom found out. But I've never pointed out to somebody that.
And has anyone ever tried to blame you for something that you didn't do?
No, but I've seen this cat video. Oh, that's really funny. But where someone throw something at eater's thing, and then that cat just pointed at the guy named Michael, and he takes the time. I've seen that before.
Wow, yeah, so that's like this situation. So, but it was the cat that did it?
It's a cat, yes.
The cat really did it, but he pointed at someone else.
Yes.
Well, you did it, Mario. You did such a great job with everything. High five again, dude. Really nice.
I should say Mario is just about to turn 6. He turned 6 this month. So he's very late 5, emerging on 6. So, of course, he understands, completely gets it. He puts one beautiful sentence together, compound complex sentence, and synthesizes the entire story. Purple crayon got mad at blue crayon. He's got some of the social emotional stuff going on because he drawed, but it was really red crayon. So here's your independent clause with the but conjoining it because he drawed is your dependent adverbial clause indicating causation, and makes it very clear with referential cohesion. So we've got nice understanding. He also has some understanding of the false beliefs that the purple crayon holds. Again, we have some beautiful adverbial clauses right here. Nice expository language. I would say it was red crayon, but it could be something else. Now then I love this. And this is where you have there's the flexibility in the slam cards. He talks about blue crayon could have picked him up and could have picked the red crayon up and drawed him on the wall. That would create the red crayon. It's hysterical. And good referential cohesion. I totally understand what he was saying. He does talk about a moment, that I like too, because that's what his family calls it. And then when Sayume says, "What do you mean by a moment?" He said, "Oh, a timeout," So he might get a timeout, especially if it picked up the red card and drew with him. So it being blamed, now he does talk about the fact that he did draw on the walls and his mom found out, but he didn't point anybody out, which is adorable. He understands the difference between that situation and this situation. And then he comes up with this cat video that it seems like it's a very similar story to what happened in the crayon picture. So, and you can see all those complex sentences, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful language. Mario show, again, it's the same structures that you're looking at, the same features. And it's just the only difference is you add in the exact things the child said, right? Like here, give different alternative resolutions. Well, he did that with the blue crayon picking up the red crayon. But his language is beautiful and complex and functional and nothing to worry about, of course, with none of these. Now, this next one is Peter Parker. And Peter Parker is 5 years old. He's not quite 6. He's about 5.5. And he also is a twin. And Peter Parker is being raised in a family where the father speaks Greek, the mother speaks Spanish, and they also have English. So the kids are fairly fluent in Greek and English, with Spanish being, I believe, the weaker of the 3 languages. But here we have a real trilingual environment where the retention of all 3 languages is very important to the parents. Here is Peter Parker, the crayons. All right, Peter Parker. This is one of my favorites. It's called The Crayons. All right, Peter Parker, what happened here?
What happened? They draw it in the wall, and then the mom got mad.
Wait a minute. Why is the red crayon pointing to the little blue crayon?
Because he thinks the blue crayon did it, but the red crayon do it.
Who thinks the blue crayon did it?
The red.
Oh, you think so?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go back and look at the one right before. Hold on. So look at that. Do you think that red crayon thinks that the blue crayon did it?
No.
What do you think happened?
The red crayon did it.
Yeah. And why is he pointing to the blue crayon then?
Because he thinks it's him, but it's the red marker.
Yeah, go ahead. Good. What would you say to the big crayon if you were the little blue crayon? What would you say?
I will say sorry.
But wait, did the little blue crayon draw on the wall?
No.
So what would you say to the big crayon if you were the little blue crayon?
I will say they will not do it.
That I didn't do it? Is that what the blue crayon would say? I didn't do it?
Yes.
And how would you convince the big crayon that you didn't do it? This is a hard question, but I know you read books. So how would you convince the big crayon that you didn't do it, Peter Parker?
I didn't. The blue didn't do it, but the red did it.
And how would you tell the big crayon that it was the red one? How would you tell him that? What would you show him?
I will show him. Don't mind.
All right, now this is a big question. What do you think is going to happen next, Peter Parker?
The mother's.
Yeah?
Mother's gonna say the blue didn't do it, the red did it.
You figure that one out. Let's see that last one. Let me ask you, Peter Parker, have you ever been blamed for something you didn't do?
No.
Did anyone ever say that you did something when you actually didn't do it? They blamed you for something you didn't do?
No.
Yeah, did that ever happen with your sister? Sometimes it happens with twins. Did your sister ever blame you with your mom or dad for something you didn't do?
Yes.
What happened?
The mother said the mother will say say the blue didn't do it, the red did it.
Excellent. You are so good at solving this. Peter Parker, you did it. Congratulations. All right, bravo. We have our Peter Parker. He gets it. They drew it on the wall, and then he didn't, and then the mom got mad. Now, what's interesting, he doesn't worry at all. He doesn't understand the blame part. And it's interesting, he doesn't have a story. He just doesn't get the blame part, which I think is pretty interesting. He doesn't have that mentioned throughout the whole thing, even with all my prompts. He doesn't get it. I think he wasn't brought up in a home where there's that blame element. So when you think about the culture and values of the family of the student you're evaluating, this boy misses that blame. But I don't think it's an area of emptiness for him. It's an area lacking, a weakness for him. I just think he doesn't have that in his upbringing in his life. He does have nice, complex sentences. He understands that the red crayon did it, and the blue did not. He understands all of that. You know, he initially is going to say he's sorry. He said, I didn't do it. He said, how are you going to show him? And he takes that and shifts it. I will show him. It's like, don't lie, right? That's one thing they know. Do not lie. But still missing the blame part. He has some nice complex sentences. And the mother, what's going to happen next? The mother's going to say the red crayon, the blue didn't do it, the red crayon did. So it's going to be resolved that the mom's going to understand, the mom being the big purple crayon, that the blue didn't do it and that the red did it, right? He's going to get there. The mom will definitely know the blue didn't do it, the red did it. So he's got a nice compound complex sentence here. He doesn't have the conflict of blame, but he did make all the inferences about who did what to whom. So here we have the analysis of Peter Parker. He's got some nice complex sentences. He showed causation. They drew on the wall. Then the mom got mad. He understands the social pragmatic language parameters. He's missing the concept of blame, but that is likely an issue with the assessment materials, as he may never have had to deal with blame in his life with his family. So with Peter Parker, what I would then do is do one of the SLAM cards set, because I don't want kids to be found, he does no blame. Well, he may not know blame, but if I tell people that he's missing that and it's a problem, that would be my fault as an evaluator not understanding that there may be cultural and racial biases in the test. Evidence-based practice with the SLAM cards, you've seen a bunch of them now, both the teletherapy and the live. They're research-based. The language is elicited and the analysis is consistent with the research. It is clinicians' expertise comes in. We especially wanted to make these shorter so you get right to the heart, you get right to those questions, the expository language, the persuasive language, so we, the temporal cohesion, all that, so we can pull out what we need to see in terms of a language sample. The children, the students, we bring their family values and cultures, and you saw that with a couple of the kids, and they all were able to answer these questions differently to be expressing themselves and their families' values and culture. So now the question is, how do we begin building foundational knowledge needing to bring research into the real world in the area of assessment? We know from the research there are areas where many speech-language pathologists or anybody who's doing this language assessment is missing content. Many miss a knowledge of grammar beyond Brown's morphemes, but of course that's only for general American English. So here's an online course that thousands of people have done already. It's free, and you can get a certificate at the end after you get 80% on the assessment. A lot of universities are using this, professors are using this to get some foundational knowledge. Then we also have now the advanced grammar fundamentals. If you don't have that strong knowledge about complex sentences, the noun clause, the adverbial clauses, the relative clauses, that kind of thing, we have an entire course on that, which also has, in addition to those complex sentences, we have a lot of videos of students too, including typically developing kids, kindergarten, first grade, and then we have some kids, I think it's third and fourth graders. So you can see that and analyze. Here's that Grammar Fundamentals with my colleagues, Dr. Valenti, Grace Sang, and Kristen Guest. If you want to see a full evaluation using the SLAM materials, this is again an online course at leadersproject.org, Disorder, Difference, or Gap of School Age Disability Evaluation. This actually is the Sophie video. Sophie was the 13-year-old who we saw doing the subway. So we want to be that evidence-based clinician. The bridge connecting the research and the clinical practice for assessment must be stronger than the rope bridge at Kakum National Park. It's got to grow stronger with greater foundation, with traffic going both ways. Evidence-based practice and disability evaluations, remember it has 3 components: evidence from the research, also the clinician's own expertise on what will work and what will not work and how to bring it into the clinical practice, and 3, that includes the values and culture of the families of the student, child, patient, client being evaluated. We want to apply evidence-based practice to our evaluations. Remember that Flucherud research showed us that about school-based SLPs were using evidence-based practice for treatment, but not for evaluations, and that we want to change. This will lead to a more accurate diagnostic determinations in the real world. And I believe we all want a real world grounded in evidence-based practice so all children and students receive the appropriate educational supports and opportunities they need and deserve. This brings us to the end of our course on evidence-based practice and disability evaluations with a particular focus on language elicitation and analysis. Here are the resources that you can use to continue to build on your knowledge. Leadersproject.org, of course, the Bilingual Extension Institute Facebook page. These are social media places where we always post when we have a new video or a new course or new resources and materials that we're putting at leadersproject.org. And of course, the Bilingual SLP Extension Institute at Teachers College, Columbia University, that has online and in-person cohorts. Here's some of our references. I encourage you to dive into them. They're really fascinating to read and to understand what truly is evidence-based practice. Thanks to the children, the students, and their families who volunteered for this project. To our beautiful illustrators, Christine Ellen and Tina Young, who I think really helped the PowerPoints pop. Sayime Romero for her original music that was used throughout this course. Film editing by Jose Font Bullrich. Thanks to the graduate students in my lab at Teachers College, Columbia University, who are working on the SLAM project. The New York City Community Trust provided us with support to make this online course. Here again are the resources and some of the individual examples of resources on disability evaluations available at leadersproject.org. Thank you for spending the time. I hope you found it useful.